They said it couldn't be fixed. He dared her to try. But he didn't know. She built machines like this in her sleep. In the heart of a billion-dollar tech empire, nestled behind titanium walls and biometric locks, panic brewed. A revolutionary AI-powered engine, meant to redefine energy forever, sat silent and lifeless. Just days away from a high-stakes investor demo, nothing worked. Engineers had tried everything. Lines of code rewritten, hardware swapped, systems rebooted. Nothing. The CEO, tight-jawed and sharp-suited, stood before the hushed team and declared it impossible. "It's dead," he spat, "and no one here has the mind to fix it." Then she arrived. No grand entrance, no credentials announced. Just a woman in grease-streaked boots and rolled-up sleeves carrying a plain, dented tool case. Her gaze swept the room, not in awe, but in quiet calculation. The staff stared. Some snickered. One whispered, "They brought in a mechanic?" The CEO stepped forward, his voice laced with condescension. "You think you can fix that?" he said, gesturing to the inert machine pulsing dimly in the corner. She said nothing. He smirked, relishing the spotlight. "All right," he declared loud enough for all to hear. "Fix it, and I'll triple your fee. Fail, and you walk out. Quietly." She nodded once. No hesitation, no words, just walked past him. She knelt beside the engine. The room, awkwardly silent, watched her inspect the metal beast with an intimacy that made the others uncomfortable. She didn't reach for tools. Not yet. First, she touched it, palming the surface like it was breathing. Then her fingers traced the seams, pressed on the frame, listened. The CEO scoffed from across the room. "She'll waste an hour, tops," he muttered to an assistant, already losing interest. But she didn't care. Her world had narrowed to this engine, to the rhythm it wasn't producing, to the misalignment only she seemed to notice. Her eyes narrowed as she studied a panel that had been opened and closed too many times by the wrong hands. Wires twisted wrong. Panels mounted against the grain. She could see it. Not just what it was, but what it should have been. No diagrams, no manuals, just instinct, memory, and brilliance. Everyone else saw a lifeless core. She saw a body with its spine twisted. And then, under her breath, barely audible over the distant hum of the facility, she spoke. They assembled it wrong, backwards. In the dim hum of the engine room, surrounded by machines built to replace human error, one woman moved like she belonged. Her hands, steady and deliberate, unscrewed each panel with the care of a surgeon. No hesitation, no wasted motion. Each part removed was laid out in precise order, like notes in a song only she could hear. Above her, in a private surveillance room, the CEO leaned back in his chair, watching the feed. He chuckled, sipping from a glass of expensive scotch. "She's taking it apart," he muttered, "not fixing it." But deep in his gut, a quiet unease began to stir. She wasn't frantic. She wasn't lost. She was listening. Her mind drifted, just for a moment, back to another room. A dirt floor, no blueprints, just a busted lawnmower engine and her mother's old screwdriver. 10 years old, grease on her face. No teachers, only instinct. That first hum when she got it running, it was music. She remembered scavenging parts from junkyards, learning to build engines with no instructions, no praise. Only results. Back then, she worked with scraps. Now, she worked with billions. In the present, her eyes focused on the engine's heart. She paused, tilting her head. Something felt off, not mechanically, but rhythmically. She reached in, removed a core piece, then stared at it. A misaligned fuel chamber. On paper, it looked correct. But deep inside, it was out of sync. Not a mechanical flaw, a systems flaw. The algorithm was compensating for faulty logic. overcorrecting the flow. That flaw, invisible to every expert who'd touched it before, was the true source of the failure. Below the feed, engineers gathered behind the glass, watching silently. One whispered, "She's not following the blueprint." Another responded, "She doesn't need it. She's writing her own." And she was. Every move mapped not to what should work, but what does. Her fingers adjusted wires, not to factory default, but to reality's demands. Suddenly, the door burst open. The CEO stepped in, irritation rising. "This isn't how we designed it," he snapped. She didn't even look up. "That's why it doesn't work," she replied, voice steady. He flinched at her calm. He tried to protest again, but she raised one hand, gentle, firm. "Silence," she said. Not a command, a request. And somehow, he obeyed. She returned to the engine, tuning its circuits, aligning plates, recalibrating timing modules with fluid precision. It was like watching a sculptor draw out form from stone. The engine, once cold and silent, began to shimmer. A faint vibration traveled through the floor. Lights on the panel blinked, softly at first, then steady. The hum returned. Not noise, life. For the first time in months, the machine exhaled. It was breathing again. In the cold, clinical air of the demo chamber, tension clung like static. Rows of engineers stood by, silent now, eyes fixed not on the CEO, but on her. Something had shifted. Moments ago, she had been a stranger. Now she gave quiet instructions, and they obeyed without hesitation. She didn't bark orders. She spoke with precision, a calm clarity that made even the most skeptical fall in line. The CEO lingered near the back, arms folded tight across his chest, masking the storm of doubt beginning to unravel inside him. Still unconvinced, he summoned the company's lead engineers, men and women who had failed this same task weeks ago, to witness what he was sure would be one final, glorious crash. But she didn't flinch. She approached the console and bypassed the AI startup sequence, disconnecting the automated system the CEO had insisted was essential. She placed her hand on the manual ignition panel like it was a living thing, and whispered, "Let it speak for itself." A pause. Then, she pressed the switch. A low whir emerged, almost inaudible. Lights along the engine's body blinked once, then again, then settled into a steady rhythm. The sound grew, not chaotic, not wild, but alive, measured, balanced, like a pulse returning to a long dormant body. Hushed gasps rippled through the room. The engine didn't just power on, it aligned, it harmonized. Internal sensors lit up in perfect sync, heat levels stabilized, and fuel efficiency spiked beyond projected models. For the first time since its creation, the engine ran a full cycle. Perfect, clean, flawless. The lead engineer dropped his clipboard, eyes wide. Someone whispered, barely loud enough to be heard, "This engine wasn't broken. It was misunderstood." The CEO's expression cracked. He stepped forward slowly, unable to look away, the flickering glow of the engine reflecting in his stunned eyes. How did you?" he began. She turned toward him, calm as ever, not arrogant, just certain. "I didn't fix your engine," she said. "I freed it from your ego." He stared, speechless. In that moment, the demo chamber doors opened. Investors, drawn by early whispers and a live feed flashing green across their devices, flooded in. They saw the humming engine, the data streaming real-time, and the woman standing quietly in its light. Phones came up, photos, videos, journalists rushed in, and through it all she remained still, unmoved by applause, untouched by chaos. The CEO, throat dry, finally began to clap. It was slow, hesitant, but real. The investors surged toward her, hands outstretched, congratulations spilling from every direction. A flashbulb popped. She didn't flinch. Her eyes stayed on the engine, its hum steady, its light soft against her skin. Like she had known all along, this was never about proving herself to them. It was about letting the machine breathe. The press conference overflowed with noise, cameras flashing, voices overlapping, the engine's success already spinning into headlines. The CEO stood at the podium, straightening his tie, smiling a little too wide. He spoke in practiced phrases, team effort, breakthrough moment, proud leadership. But the room wasn't looking at him. They were looking at her. Standing off to the side, quiet and unbothered, the woman who made the impossible real. One by one, staff members began to speak up, gently correcting the narrative. It was her insight. She rewired everything. None of us even saw the flaw. She did. The story unraveled, not in malice, but in truth. Reporters turned. Microphones pointed her way. She offered a small smile, eyes low. "The work matters more than the attention," she said simply. And that was all. No interviews, no speeches, just truth, delivered like everything else she did, with grace. Later, away from the buzz and noise, she walked through the door of a weathered building with peeling paint and a flickering light above the entrance. Inside, the air smelled of oil, metal, and purpose. A small community workshop, bare bones, but alive. Half-built drones lay scattered on benches, gears, circuits, wires, and girls. Young ones, laughing, learning, building with the same fire she once had. She moved among them like a guide, not a leader. One girl asked how the engine worked. She knelt, pulled out a scrap piece, and began to show her, not with theory, but with her hands. In the quiet of that space, legacy wasn't a speech or a title. It was passed down wrench by wrench, spark by spark. A memory returned, an old rejection letter from the same company that now celebrated her. Years ago, she had applied for an entry-level engineering position. No reply, no interview. The man who dared her to fix the unfixable had once dismissed her before she ever set foot in his building. And now, he arrived at the workshop, out of place in his polished shoes, holding a formal offer letter in hand, a leadership role, full authority, unlimited resources. "You belong with us," he said. She glanced around at the girls, the walls, the shelves stacked with possibility. "I already am where I belong," she answered, then added gently, "I build futures, not empires." He nodded slowly, understanding just enough to step back. As he left, she turned toward one of the youngest girls in the room, tiny hands, big eyes, who was gripping a wrench like it was a key to a kingdom. The girl looked up. "Can I fix it?" she asked. The woman smiled. "You already know how." The girl grinned and leaned into the project, the hum of tools rising again. In that moment, the story wasn't about machines anymore. It was about hands, about fire, about passing something sacred on. And as the screen faded to black, a voice returned, quiet but certain. "They said it was impossible until she made it look easy."